Alright, today we're going to crawl underneath the F350 in the back. We're going to pull the differential cover off and change the rear end fluid, and we're also going to change the rear ABS sensor.
Hello, and welcome to our channel. We're glad you're here.
Now what we'll do down here on the rear differential is remove all these bolts that go around the outside edge. I'll probably leave this top one here just cracked loose until I get the cover to snap off and drain all the fluid out of it. And then we'll take this last cut bolt off and remove the cover and get it all cleaned up in there. Okay, we'll actually start by removing or loosening up the fill plug on the back of the differential. It's just a 1/2 inch square, so a 1/2 inch drive ratchet fits right in there. Alright, that's loosened up. That way we don't have to try and fight getting that off when the cover's off the vehicle and nothing's holding it. Now we'll remove these cover bolts. They look like they are 9/16, which kind of surprises me. I figured they would be metric, but the 9/16 socket fits best on them. I tried a 14 millimeter, doesn't want to go on, and a 15 millimeter's got just a little bit of slop. But the 9/16 seems to fit on there nice and snug. Oop. Just can't get a good angle on a couple of these. Shocks in the way on the other side. Oh, and everything under here is just covered in soot. Exhaust on this is broken off at the back of the muffler, so it just dumps on the axle. So everything under here, this shock, yeah, I guess you can see that in the camera. This shock's just black with soot. Whole underside of the bed back here's all sooty. I do have a new exhaust to put on it, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to do, so I don't want to jump into that. Obviously not in the morning before work, and I'm almost a little apprehensive to try it just on a Sunday in case I run into problems. So I'll probably wait until a couple weeks from now when I've got some time off, like 2 days in a row, so that just in case there's some kind of a problem, I don't get upside down and not have something to drive to work. Alright, one more and then we can pop this cover loose. And I know they don't use gaskets on these, just silicone. Okay, there's that top one loosened up. The pan under here. And the screwdriver. I should have brought a hammer. Yeah, it's definitely glued on there well. There we go. All right. Ooh. Sitting on just a little bit of a slope here where the pan's at, so it's going to run off the front if I don't hold it up steady here. Alright, like I said, I'll let that drain and we'll pull the cover off. Now that it's pretty well drained, we'll pull this last bolt off and pull the cover. And there's the inside. What I'll do is grab a couple cans of brake cleaner and I'll kind of hose it out in there to get the worst of it out. And then we're also going to change the ABS sensor because it is giving me a light. Sorry, I'm trying to get the socket on the ratchet down here. The ABS sensor on these is located on top of the differential right here. So we've got a wiring harness on there, sensor itself, and a bolt. This bolt I think is 13 millimeter, but it is kind of rusty, so a 1/2 inch fits it better. So we'll pull that bolt out. See if we can get this. Sorry, the brake hose is kind of in the way of filming this. Turn this back and forth a couple times, break it loose. Get the screwdriver under there and pry it a little bit. Just going to keep working it back and forth. There we go. Just pop loose. And there's the ABS sensor. So I'll go grab the new ABS sensor and we'll stick that in there. Just have to pull it off the harness here. I'll grab a rag as well and make sure I clean off this mounting surface real good and not, make sure I don't get anything down inside. Clean that up, put the new sensor in, plug it in, and like I said, we'll get some brake cleaner, kind of clean out inside of the differential a little bit, get as much of this old fluid out as we can, and we will use brake cleaner as well on the cover. And I'll also bring a wire wheel or a roll-lock disc down, clean all the silicone off around the outside edge, and do the same thing to the cover. Just spray this out in here. Don't have to get it perfect, obviously. Just trying to get the bulk of the old fluid kind of rinsed off everything. It's going to puddle at the bottom. Inside of there. Alright, there's one can down. So that gets it pretty well cleaned out in there. Let it air dry, let all that brake cleaner evaporate off. And then before we clean it up, put the cover back on, we'll wipe out this bottom because there's always some puddling down here of fluid and whatever, because at the bottom of there's a lip right here. It's like a hole behind it, so you always have some residual in there. So we'll try and get all that out we can. Got the new ABS sensor, so we'll get that installed here. This would be so much easier to work on if I had a lift of some kind. Okay, that cleans off where it goes. Stick that down in the hole. And I think I'm going to put a little bit of some kind of a lubricant on that O-ring before I stick it all the way in there. I'm going to wipe the bore out. Let me put a little bit of grease on this. Now, what I put on there was a product called Truck Light. It's a grease that you put in like your light sockets for anti-corrosion connection. So I figured that'd work good to lubricate that O-ring. Stick that back in there. Yep, popped right in that time. Before it was hanging up on the O-ring. So we'll put our 1/2-inch bolt back in there. Tighten that up. Yeah, it's definitely rusty because even the 1/2-inch is a little sloppy on there. And we'll pull this electrical connector off. Try not to break the clips. That's the hardest part sometimes working on stuff, is getting the electrical connectors off without breaking them. Here we go. And we'll plug that into the new sensor. Alright. Hopefully that will eliminate my ABS light. There we go, it's snapped on. So that's in there. I have a program on my computer called ForScan. I'll do a video on that at some other time. It's a PC program that you use a ALDL connector for, and you can read your codes and do other tests with it. So like I said, I'll do a separate video on that. But according to that scanner, it was showing 2 different codes for the rear ABS sensor, and the ABS light's on. So I inspected the harness. All the wiring and stuff looks clean and in good shape on this truck, so I don't think it's a wiring issue. So I just assumed it was a bad sensor, and it was only 20-some bucks at Napa. So I got a new sensor for it. So let me get the die grinder with the roll-lock disc on it, and we will clean up this this face where the gasket sealer goes. Once the differential gasket surface is all cleaned, and as you can see, this is dry now. The brake cleaner's evaporated. Did make a mistake when I bought brake cleaner. I bought the non-flammable kind. It does not seem to evaporate quite as well as the flammable kind. So I need to pay attention better next time I buy brake cleaner. But now that this is cleaned, and our cover is all nice and clean, we will put some, I always use the Ultra Gray. We'll put a nice bead of silicone around this outside edge and reinstall this cover back on the truck. I like putting just a nice even bead the whole way around, maybe a 1/4 inch bead or so, go on the inside of all the screw holes. And then, starting with the top screw, start putting your bolts back in. I guess, yeah, they're bolts, not screws. And of course, you want to make sure when you put this back on that down here on the bottom there's no rear end fluid running out, because that will cause you to leak. And then you always make sure you put your tags back on if they're readable. This one cleaned up pretty good. It looks like I've got 410 gears and limited slip. So that tag goes over here. And then there was one other tag that went in that corner. I had it in the box there with the fluid, and The way the sun's shining, it's a little hard for me to see it, but it's in there now. So we just snug all these bolts up. Move the pan now since we're not draining anymore. And as you can see, I hope you can see that, as we tighten up, we get a little bit of ooze coming out around the edge. As long as we've got ooze the whole way around, that should give us a good seal. And once everything is just snugged up, okay, that's all of them snugged. Now I'll just go through here and give them a final tightening. And I'm sure the proper way, of course, would be to use a torque wrench. Put them all at an even torque. But as long as they're tight and we don't have any leaks, that's what matters. Alright, there's that. Now we remove our plug and start refilling this. That plug does have a magnet on it. Now this calls for 75 W140 synthetic, and what's odd, the front calls for a different weight. I think it's like 75 W90 maybe. I do have some of that for another video when we do the front. Okay, got the hole in that and a piece of tubing on there so that I can flip this upside down. Now it's pretty much just squirt this fluid in there until it's full. It calls for just under 4 quarts. It's like 6.4 pints or something like that, or 7 pints, I forget. But anyway, it's a little bit less than 4 quarts. And also, since this is a limited slip rear end, we need to add the friction modifier additive. It calls for 8 ounces. This is a 4-ounce bottle, so I've got 2 of these bottles. So we'll squirt this fluid in there and squirt that friction modifier in there until it just starts to run out the drain hole. And this is the 4th quart here, so theoretically, at some point, the fluid should start running out of the hole. I hope it starts running pretty soon, as I'm about out of fluid here. Okay, well, it's running out, but I think I spilled it. Tube in there to get the rest of it. Yeah, I certainly hope I don't have to buy more fluid. And I can hear it gurgling the fluid in there. that tube drain. Let's see what I got here. Okay, yeah, you stick your finger in and it's just right below that, right below the threads. So we're good on fluid. Put our drain plug back in. Now those friction modifiers I put in almost looked like 2-cycle oil. They were a bluish color, but a lot thicker and a lot stinkier. Okay, there's our plug tight. It's all wiped off. And that should be it. Now the plug's back in, bolts are all tight, our new sensor's installed, fluid's full. So let's fire this thing up and see if we still have an ABS light or not. And unfortunately, no, we still have an ABS light. Looks like it's trying to go out, but it comes right back on. So I'll have to hook that scanner up and see what kind of codes I have. Maybe if I clear the codes, it'll stop. So let's throw the scanner on and see what we can find. Well, hey, look at that. I went in the house to get the computer to hook up the 4Scan, and the truck was sitting in the sun. So I thought, well, I'll pull over in the driveway in the shade, so it's not glaring on the computer screen. And when I moved the truck, the ABS light went out. So maybe it just had to relearn the sensor back there. So let me turn this around and park it. Now back it into a tree. Sorry for the bouncing around, but corner of the driveway here. Trying to not hit a tree. Okay, there we go. Let's pull this back up to park. Let's see if that light comes back on. Hit the brakes pretty hard there and staying off. So maybe we're in good shape. Light is staying off. So let's turn it off. And light goes off. So maybe we did fix it. I know on the BMW that I had, it was kind of the same way. If you had a light trip on you for some reason, it would you'd have to drive it, and once it saw the sensor again, it's like, oh, okay, I'm working now, and it would turn the light off. So apparently that sensor fixed it. We'll keep an eye on that, make sure that light doesn't come back on us. We'll drive this for a couple days and recheck that fluid to make sure it's in good condition and still full. I will also probably at that time do the front differential because I've got fluid for it as well. And like I said, we'll do another video at a later date on using that 4Scan scanner. I use this link connector. USB plugs into the laptop. This plugs into the ALDL under the dash. Pull the program up, connect to the vehicle, and you can do all kind of fun stuff. So we'll end that video there. The rear differential fluid change on the Dana axle and the ABS sensor that apparently fixed my issue. Thanks for watching. Please give us a thumbs up. Any questions or comments are always welcome. Always appreciate if you subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.